Once the shots have been fired, and the massive cannonballs have landed on their marks, once the arrows are buried deep into the ground, or have struck themselves in flesh and armor, once the smoke of the firing line is clearing up, and the armies clash against each other, the brutal cut and thrust of close combat begins. There are many capable warriors, champions, and mighty characters that can up a good fight in Warhammer Fantasy, but only a few have achieved legendary deeds when it comes to their martial prowess in close combat. In this episode, we will explore some of the most capable melee fighters in the Warhammer universe. This list of characters is not presented in order, and it only shows the capabilities of each one. Feel free to let us know in the comments who, in your opinion, is the mightiest melee fighter in Warhammer Fantasy. But to be able to put up a good fight, a good warrior needs to be healthy and well fed. That's why today's video sponsor is Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon brings you tasty cereals that you can eat at any time of the day. The adult and inner child in you will love these never boring flavors that you won't believe are actually good for your health. The healthy Magic Spoon cereals have 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 to 5 net grams of carbs in each serving. Click the link below to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code BOOKOFCHOYA at checkout to get $5 off any order. Or go to magicspoon.com/bookofchoya. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click the link below and use the code BOOKOFCHOYA. Start eating healthier. Huge columns of smoke rise above the horizon as settlements, towns, and cities alike burn to ashes when the greenskin hordes gather to attack their enemies and consume everything around them, always looking for the next big battle. In the order of greenskin life, the strong rule over the weak, and all orcs and goblins want to fight alongside a powerful war boss who can lead their tribes from victory to victory. Capable of leading entire tribes from battle to battle are the orc war bosses. They are the largest, strongest, and most ferocious of all the greenskins, and they rise to lead them in great numbers. They are the elite warriors of a brutal race of creatures who live mostly to fight. And amongst their number, there is no meaner or tougher war boss than Grimgo Ironhide. Grimgo is an unstoppable avatar of destruction and rage, a being that lives to fight and kill with his massive and always bloodied axe, named Cxee, a name that means foe killer. Uncountable are the enemies that Grimgo has killed, and many are the legendary deeds he has achieved through his violent life. One of the most remarkable is when he fought the massive rat ogres in the deepest tunnels of the mountains, a challenge that offered him what he craved, a proper fight. In the depths of the World Edge Mountains, far from the touch of sunlight, goblins fought the verminous Skaven in a never-ending war across countless passages, tunnels, and halls. When Grimgo and his black orcs heard of the ongoing conflict below, they quickly joined the battle. Month after month the battles raged, thousands upon thousands of Skaven and Greenskins dying for control of the underground network. Every room and every corridor was contested, and every inch was paid in blood. Time again, Grimgo would think the Skaven destroyed, just to stumble on a secret passage hiding yet more of the Vermintide. But with Grimgo on their side, the Greenskins consistently pushed the Skaven back. The bloodshed grew in intensity each time, and the war was being fought deeper and deeper into the darkest tunnels of the World Edge Mountains, getting dangerously close to help it. And the Skaven of Clan Moulder could not allow that. Throt the Unclean gathered a great army of rabid rat ogres, many of them specially augmented and mutated with chunks of warpstone, and unleashed them upon the Greenskin warboss, taking him and the rest of the orcs and goblins by surprise. In the middle of the battle, Grimgo found a spot from where he could fight back against the newly arrived rat ogres. Grimgo stood alone against the new enemy. Although his forces were initially thrown back, Grimgo, placing himself in the middle of a narrow tunnel and in a burst of euphoria and rage, stood fighting against the hundreds of rat ogres while all other greenskins retreated in panic. For hours and hours, the massive war boss fought fiercely against the grotesque rat ogres, killing anything that came against him. Soon enough, dozens of the mutated creatures fell. Monster after monster they fell, fighting against the toughest Black Orc war boss in existence. Unable to kill Grimgo, the remaining rat ogres and minor Skaven rats pulled back. The massive Black Orc screamed in rage. Was this all the Skaven could throw at him? These days, there are signs that Grimgo is mustering the biggest war the world has ever seen. Now that everything is in turmoil and the biggest fights are happening all around the world. Fear grows through all lands as the Black Orc seeks more foes for his axe to cleave. Grim Ironfist is the last king of Kadrin, a bastion of protection in Peak Pass, which is a long stretch of mountain roads spanning from the far lands of the east to the old world. To the great fortune of the western civilizations of the old world, Kadrin still stands as the barricade before the enemy flowing from the east like a roaring river. Grim is a dwarf king that has taken the Slayer's Oath, so he is torn between the duties of protecting his people and seeking redemption for himself. The Slayer's Oath is a binding promise that requires its taker to live in exile whilst seeking redemption by attaining the most honourable death battling monstrous creatures. Only in glorious death shall the Slayer's Oath be fulfilled and any shame or dishonour removed. It is King Ungrim who carries the responsibility of honouring the warrior god Grimnir the Fearless and protecting the people of his kingdom. Wearing heavy armour and dragon cloak, Ungrim is well protected against all but the most powerful of blows. He carries with him the Axe of Dargo, a weapon of tremendous size, and is said to be made from the shards of King Baragor's broken axe, the first Slayer King. The axe is tempered with dragon's blood and has claimed many lives, from rank and file troopers from many races to monstrous beasts of terrible size.
At last, Enough of this larking about, lads. It is time to arm ourselves, to act like slayers, and bring death to the Urks, and especially those snivelling Groby. I wish to cleanse myself in battle. Once I have cleaned my soul of the subterfuge, then I will wear the honorable cloak of Fritzgar again. Now, my throng, ready your shield walls. Bring the oath stones. Let us drain all before us. When the job is done, I will crack open a barrel of Bugmans, and we will drink until none can stand. Are you with me, lads?
Grimgo Ironfist has led many times his powerful and mighty throngs to war against many enemies. The Slayer King is truly a force to be reckoned with, and his enemies know this all too well. The children of the gods, also known as the lizard men, are an ancient and intelligent race. They are the true inheritors of the world, and they march to cleanse the lands of the other races that are not included in the Great Plan. Representing the true embodiment of a predatory warrior is the Thesaurus. They conform the backbone of the lizard men armies, and they stand taller than any man, muscular as an orc, and its body protected by hard scales. Even unarmed, they are extremely dangerous in their own right, thanks to their features. It is said that the Thesaurus can crush steel with their jaws, and their sharp claws can shatter stone with a well-placed attack. These creatures were created for the sole purpose of waging war, and through history they have exterminated entire species from the world. Amongst the most revered and feared Thesaurus warriors in history stands tall the name of Khrokhgar, also titled the Last Defender of Xotl. The true test for Khrokhgar came when the Great Catastrophe hit. When the solar gates collapsed and the raw stuff of chaos entered and corrupted the world, creatures that should not exist manifested and attacked the ancient temple cities of the lizard men. Chaos had arrived, and at its back came the endless armies that, like the darkest of shadows, loomed over Xotl. As the lizard men were pushed back from the battlefield to their city, the Slans erected great geomantic barriers, so to make it impossible for the demons to manifest inside the Temple of Xotl. Meanwhile, the bodies at the city's gates started piling up in mountains of mauled, blooded, soaked meat. Yet Khrokhgar and Grimlock remained dauntless. Sweeping through lines after lines of demons, their combined might was only matched by the greatest death dealers the servant of the dark gods could muster. With the support of his fellow kins, the Thesaurus and the mighty Carnosaur formed an impenetrable wall that was only ever so slightly being pushed back by the endless tide. The city eventually fell when the geomantic barriers collapsed and demons manifested inside the city. But Khrokhgar did not stop fighting. He could have battled till the very end and fall together with his city, but he still had an army of survivors, fellow lizard men to fight for. Thus, rallying his warriors around him, he managed to form a ram head to smash through the forces of chaos and leave Xotl. The war, however, was far from over. Khrokhgar and his ageless Carnosaur Grimlock advanced through the jungles, trapped by the army of chaos's ever-ceasing trail of destruction. For many years, the two warriors and their dwindling army slaughtered demon host after demon host without pause, one day hoping and finding a way to turn back to civilization and finally know rest. Eventually that day came, as the elves enacted their great ritual on the distant Isle of Ulthuan, banishing the demons from the mortal world. As the demonic hosts disappeared or were outright killed, Krogar and Grimlock were left alone. Losing kin after kin at every battle, the proud Saurus leader and the Carnosaur remained the only survivors of those many cruel years of fighting enemies of all sizes.
Amid the darkness and horror of a world splintering apart, the armies of the true creators, we who were ancient at the dawn of time, will march forth once more. We shall sweep away all that is chaos and disorder, for ours is the true path, and none shall defy us.
The heavily scarred body of Gorok is a true testament to many thousands of hard-fought triumphs. This huge warrior of albino colorings, also known as the Great White Lizard, is the solid center around which the Saurus battle lines advance, and the rock on which the foes of the Lizardmen and Itza's enemies are broken. As a true Lizardmen Saurus warrior, this cold-blooded being is made to wage war. He does not concern himself with other matters such as politics or intrigue. Gorok does not know pain or fear, and in combat he is unrelenting, always looking for another opening to attack the foe and eliminate any who is not part of the great plan traced by the legendary Old Ones. It is said that this mighty creature has never taken a single step backwards in his hundreds of years of fighting, and while he has been placed in command of armies and units in the field of battle, he has never failed to achieve any of his tasks. How this is possible, nobody truly knows, but according to legends, it can be that it is because he wields the mighty mace of Urumak, a weapon that is said to be guided by the hands of the Old Ones themselves. If that is the case, then no doubt Gorok is truly a force to be reckoned with. In any battle, he can always be found where the fighting is thickest, and those that do not fall beneath the powerful sweeps of his mighty weapons are smashed aside by his massive shield, the Shield of Aeons, a great artifact made deep within the volcanic heart of the Fire Islands. Known to the orcs and goblins as Orcbane, to the Norse as Man-Killer, and to the Dark Elves as the Reaper, Tyrion is said to be the greatest living High Elf warrior there is. As the heir of an Aryan, he is often regarded as nothing less than an Aryan himself, reborn due no less to his accomplishments. Tyrion focuses in the defense of Ulthuan and the protection of the Ever-Queen. He rides atop his noble steed named Malhandir, which happens to be the largest and greatest warhorse born from Korhandir, the father of horses. No other mount is capable of interpreting its master's desires in the same way as Malhandir does at the slightest of Tyrion's signs. Together they drove away the Skaven horde of Cxee and have achieved many deeds together. Tyrion has fought and banished the greater demon Nakari, and was also able to kill Urien Poisonblade during the legendary battle of Finneval Plain, where the High Elves faced the Dark Elves in a massive fight. He is a warrior without peer, and has no mercy for the enemies of the High Elves and the Phoenix King.
Elves of Ulthuan, to me! The scum approach. They think to cage us in. But is the lion trapped? when cornered by the rat? Do warriors squirm when confronted by weaklings? No is the answer. Gird your souls. Let them come.
Tyrion is not only a master swordsman and one of the best soldiers in the entire world, but also an awe-inspiring general. Able to understand any battlefield at a glance and direct troops with superlative skill to overcome the foe. He wields the powerful weapon named Sunfang, a sword made with the purpose of banishing demons during the early days of Anarian's rule. The victims that are touched with this weapon suffer a blazing ray that turns them to ruin, thanks to the white-hot runes that are embedded within the ancient weapon. Tyrion is an unmatched warrior. The hope of Ulthuan and his reputation precede him. Rightly feared for his prodigious strength and unmatched skill in combat, Wulfric forged his infamy by taking the heads of every rival Chaos champion who crossed his path, proudly displaying them for all to see as trophies, and as a declaration of his power and the folly of challenging him. In his past life, Wulfric was an already accomplished champion of Chaos. He offered gifts and sacrifices to the Chaos gods, but it was in the aftermath of the famous Battle of 1,000 Skulls that Wulfric sealed his own destiny.
The bodies of enemies slain have paved a bloody path, drenched in gore. By the will of our master, the trail has led us here today. Now, the tidal wave of blood we've spilled has drawn the attention of the Hound's twisted followers. They stand across the way with their weakling champion, attempting to summon yet more cretins. I will take his skull, and together we will wipe out every one of them. To the slaughter!
At the Battle of 1,000 Skulls, the Sarls and Aeslings clashed. Amidst the carnage, Wulfric fought the mighty Aesling king. Wulfric slew the Chaos Lord, decapitating him and holding his head high for his tribesmen to see. With the death of their king, the Aeslings quit the field and victory was in the hands of the Sarls. That night, as was the custom of the northern tribes after a battle, a great feast was held. While drinking, Wulfric proclaimed that no man or beast had fought harder than him on that day, and none, he swore, would outdrink him in victory. Using the skull of King Torgald as his drinking vessel, Wulfric would go on to proclaim many deeds and to boast about his mighty prowess. He also proclaimed that he was the equal of any warrior of the realms of the mortal world, or in the realms beyond flesh. This was his undoing. After having drank more than 8 barrels of mead, he was out. Even the ogres that were allied with the Sarls were impressed by his drinking capabilities. During his sleep, he was visited by an emissary of the Dark Gods, a mysterious being. The emissary spoke of how Wulfric's bold words had offended the gods, but had also intrigued them enough to challenge their champion to prove his proud words. He was now charged to travel the 4 corners of the world and to seek out the fiercest challengers, the most monstrous creatures, and most ferocious adversaries, and slay them in single combat to prove his might.
Throughout our lives, we are each of us many men. At times, the gods conspire to destroy one of these selves without killing the body.
When that happens, a new self arises to command the flesh. Tales of a hulking champion, clad in black steel and bones, wielding a dark sword, had spread far. A champion of chaos, cursed to forever seek the greatest of monsters to offer them to his masters. Some heroes battle on, too stubborn to realize all hope is lost. Their time is past, and a new age of chaos and dismay beckons. Called the Three-Eyed King and Lord of the End Times, Archaon the Ever-Chosen is the herald of the apocalypse, and none shall stand in his way. He is the chosen of the Chaos Gods, and is protected and blessed with dreadful artifacts of ancient evil, each one bestowed as a reward for accomplishing the impossible trials that the gods demanded of him. Archaon managed to claim the legendary 6 treasures of chaos, which marked him as the Ever-Chosen. Now he marches to bring the world to its knees. He is truly a warrior who did the unthinkable, and succeeded where hundreds of other champions of chaos have failed. Wielding a huge sword named Slayer of Kings, the Ever-Chosen of Chaos rides atop Dorgar, his own massive demonic horse that breathes fire and is larger than any warhorse in existence.
Another thinks to bring me to my knees. Another who wishes me to bow before him, like he is some pitiless king. Does he think his pathetic sorceries will work on me or my followers? Come, my swords of chaos. Let us show this weakling conjurer who would be royalty what I do to monks. He will see why I am the Lord of the End Times, why I am the Ever-Chosen, and why I will wield the Slayer of Kings!
Entire civilizations have fallen at the hands of Archaon. The herald of the apocalypse is now coming to bring the end times to the world. Who is there to stop him? How is the world supposed to be saved against he who is the chosen of the gods? Seeking a valiant death to atone for a personal sin, Gottrek Gurnison, having taken the Slayer's oath, has travelled the world, his poet companion Felix by his side, seeking the mightiest doom he could find. Gottrek has fought and slain thousands of enemies, entire hordes of greenskins and skaven, and has killed numerous monsters, including giants, trolls, chaos warlords, and sorcerers, and even a bloodthirster of Khorne. Gottrek is a very grim and moody figure, even by dwarf standards, and possesses the same stubborn character, obsession with honour, oaths and grudges as most of his race. He is tall for a dwarf, heavily muscled, and wears a patch to cover an eye which he lost in battle. It is known that Gottrek grows frustrated as time passes, as he is not able to fulfill his oath. To die in honourable battle. He just keeps killing everything that is up against him. As a slayer, one could say that he is the most successful of all, or the worst of all, for failing in his ultimate goal. So mighty is Gottrek Gurnison that he travelled to the realms of chaos, a place where time and space does not exist, and the dimension in which all the raw stuff of chaos flows from. Unimaginable creatures and nightmares reside there. Gottrek was thrown out of that place and into the mortal realms. Gottrek now continues his journey to find Nagash, the god of death. As the first Phoenix King of Ulthuan, Anarion was destined for great things. He is the most revered High Elf of all time. His greatest accomplishment was uniting all the kingdoms of Ulthuan and the entire race of elves beneath his rule, as he defended the world from the terrible demonic hordes that were unleashed upon the world when the polar gates collapsed during the Great Catastrophe. Anarion killed hordes of demons and monsters during that terrible invasion, but while doing so he cursed himself. In the fires of his rage and the heat of the moment, Anarion drew the powerful yet cursed Sword of Cain and used it to keep the demons at bay.
If the gods had given him strength, the sword had made him all but invincible. Where he walked, demons died. Where he led, victory was inevitable.
At the peak point during the invasion, he even managed to kill 4 greater demons of chaos, fighting against him at the same time. Fighting with the incredibly powerful Sword of Cain and his faithful dragon in Dragnir, they defeated the mightiest demons of their kind. This was until his great friend, the Archmage Kalador Dragontamer, sacrificed himself to enact a spell of elven high magic and created a great vortex that sucked away the surplus winds of magic, taking the demons away. After defeating the 4 greater demons, the wounded Anarion climbed wearily into the saddle of his dying dragon, and they took to the air on their last flight to return the Sword of Cain to its place.
The elves proclaimed Anarion the Defender, the blessed Phoenix King of Azurian. And where he led, others followed. Where he fought, the demons were thrown back. Great were his victories, and many are the tales told elsewhere of the Phoenix King's battles. Mighty heroes rallied to Anarion's banner. Elves such as Kalador the Dragon Tamer, greatest of the elven mages, and Eleron Anar, who first raised the Phoenix King's standard. Names forever entwined with the legend of the first Phoenix King.
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.